Morning.
Sam Allardyce.
Good.
Sorry.
Hello, you okay?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Would you like to start? Hi.
Sam, hello.
Yeah.
All good with you?
Not too bad, thanks.
Okay. Well, who's going to start?
Yep.
Tell us how your squad is for this weekend. Has everyone who's been away come back okay? And how do things stand with Patrick Van Arnholt and Matthew Flamini and James McCarthy?
Matthew Flamini's back training. Patrick Van Arnold's still injured at the moment. We picked up an injury this week to Fraser Campbell. James McCarthy's still struggling a bit with his back spasm, so they're the only doubts around the squad at the moment. Obviously, we have our long-term injury still. The international players came back okay, fit from their international duty, which is important for us. And obviously, we're running into almost like a Christmas period in April, where we're forced to play. I think it's 7 games in the month. I think they had 3 games in March. So we've got a very sticky period of games, which we would have preferred not to have played like we're playing them, but we'll have to try and deal with each game as it comes and try and get as many points as we can.
3 wins in a row, though. 3 clean sheets.
Yeah.
In a row. I mean, in terms of being defensively solid, how much better are you right now than you were just a few matches ago?
Well, I mean, it's a key to our success at the moment. I think that we've managed to do what's one of the most important things in football, when that's score first. And we all know the percentage of how much you win when you score first to how much you don't win when you don't score first. It's very difficult when you're a struggling club to come back from behind and win a game of football. So the clean sheet basis has given us an opportunity to then score first and then go on and win 3 games on the trot. In fact, win the 4th game we played recently, which was Bournemouth away. So that gives us a great solid unit in our resilience against the opposition, whoever we're playing. And of course, that resilience will have to be the best it's ever been this season against Chelsea, because when you play that team at the moment who are flying high at the top of the Premier League, then our defensive resilience would be the key element for us to even hope of achieving a result against them.
Just how big a challenge is it against?
Well, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge because it's the top of the league, but it's not an impossible challenge. It's not an impossible situation for us to get results. I think we have to play our best. There's no doubt about that. Every man will have to be on top of his form. Every man will have to be very, very aware tactically of what we need to do in and out of possession, and we'll have to make few mistakes in the game, because Chelsea are masters at punishing your mistakes, and I think that all areas of the field we'd have to be in top form on Saturday, and if we can get a chance, I think that we have to try and score. I think we'll get pegged back for periods, but we will get opportunities, and if we get opportunities, whoever that opportunity falls to, we'd have to be very clinical, because I don't think there'll be too many. So if we can do that, we can upset the leaders of the Premier League at the moment. But you know, it is a big game for us to try and get a point in,
Christian Benteke
or 2 or 3.
Christian Benteke has come back from the international break with Belgium. He scored. He was, while he was with them, talking a little bit about
Sacrifice.
making the sacrifice.
Yes, he's had to make the sacrifice. That the goals haven't been quite as fluent for him as they were perhaps before I arrived. I think that using the word sacrifice is nice to hear, so he's not selfish. He's disappointed he isn't scoring any goals at the moment. I wouldn't say it's my over defensive tactics more than the fact that I would say that we have to get better, all of us in the final third, at creating more chances, not just for him, for all the team. I think we get there, but I don't think we're as creative or as clinical as we should be. So from the Christian's point at the moment, it's very frustrating for him because he hasn't put the ball in the back of the net since Bournemouth, and I think that he's had opportunities, they've come and they've gone, and hopefully they will arrive at the right time for us, and that right time is within the next 10 games. If we are to stay up, we need to get Christian scoring again. He is our leading scorer, and I would hope he could bag five or six goals in the last 10 games to try and help us get out the problem we're in.
He has scored, so too has Wilf Zaha when he's been away with Ivory Coast. They both scored against Russia, didn't they? What did you make of what Steve Parish had to say about the frustration with him not playing for England and being a lost talent?
It has nothing to do with me at all. Nothing whatsoever. Wilfried Zaha has chosen the Ivory Coast, full stop. Nailed on, 100%. Wilfried Zaha is playing for us in great form at the moment. Since he came back from the African nations, produced an unbelievable performance at Bournemouth, dipped a little bit and now has come back again. Wilfried Zaha goes to the Ivory Coast and plays outstandingly well, scores another outstanding goal. Wilfried Zaha is improving his game, maturing in his game because of his experience over the years, but also the experience he'll gain at playing international football as well as playing for Crystal Palace in the Premier League. So at the moment, Wilfried Zaha for me is in a very, very good place, and that's all that I'm concerned about. Not should have been England, should have been it's the Ivory Coast. It's not going to change. He's at Crystal Palace. He's playing particularly well for us, and he's playing particularly well for the Ivory Coast, scoring goals as well as making them. And I hope that continues from now till the end of the season. So the international side of it has no relevance for me whatsoever.
Do you feel that we are doing enough to keep and encourage players to stay with England? That's
Dan's and Gareth's baby now, not mine. And I think that they hunt and search across everywhere if they possibly can to see what they may be able to recruit for England. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Certainly in my short period of time, that was the case, and I'm sure it still is.
How central has Yohan Cabaye been for you over these last few matches? And the introduction of Luka Milivojevic, has that given him a little bit more freedom to play?
Yes, I think so. I think that we've got a specific player in a position we didn't have at the football club before he joined us. I think that Matthew Flamini, whatever reason, with injuries and so on and so forth, hadn't really nailed that position like he had at previous clubs for me in Arsenal or Marseille. So we went out and bought Luka to specifically be the protection in front of the back four, out of possession, and more importantly, the catalyst for our attacking play. So people in that position have to be the best and most capable on the ball as well, in terms of their passing, because they will set off more attacks than anybody else. So his passing is as good as anybody's in the team, and most of the balls from that position he passes forward to create more opportunities for attack, which then releases a Puncheon and a Yohan Cabaye and a Wilfried Zaha and an Andros Townsend and a Christian Benteke more. So that play that he's brought to that solidarity from a defensive point of view is also very creative from an attacking point of view in possession.
Cabaye's been saying that he doesn't know what the future holds. He says in life,
neither do I.
everything is possible.
Oh no, I don't know what we've got to plan pre-season now. I don't know what division we'll be in yet or we'll be where, but you know we're all responsible for our own destiny. Yohan Cabaye, me, everybody at the football club who works for the first team, and even outside of it, we're responsible for our own destiny. We've got our own destiny in our own hands by what we've done by winning the last 3 games. And we will decide at the end of the day whether we stay in the league or not by what we do between now and the end of the season. What happens then? Who knows? There'll be some comings, there'll be some goings. And, that happens at every football club now. Comings and goings happen far too much in today's football and today's modern world. Fans demand it, press demand it, social media demand it. It's really not suitable for a manager to make 9 and 10 changes every year, because you're dealing with personalities. You have to mould a team around those personalities. You have to find their strengths and weaknesses. So it's a lot more difficult to manage today than it ever was in the past, because everybody wants 6, 7 and 8 new players in, 8, 9 new 10 players out. Makes life extremely difficult to mould a squad like that as a team. But it has to be done because that's what is demanded of you.
Do you think he is hinting at a move in the things that he's been saying?
Well, I don't know really. I mean, you'd have to ask him. I mean, is he hinting at a move? I don't know. I think he'd like to keep the club up and reading between the lines. I think he'd like to go back to Marseille if they made a big enough bid for him, by the sound of it. So, in the end of the day, in today's world and in today's society, if he does the job for us and he keeps us up and Marseille offer us millions and millions of pounds, I'm sure Steve will say, should we take this millions of pounds for Yohan or shouldn't we? And then we take it from there, but it's all speculation at the minute.
In terms of your running, 10 matches to go, 6 of those matches are against the top 6.
Oh, just to finish off, I'd prefer to keep him, Yohan Cabaye. All right, just before you write, Sam wants Yohan out. You know what I mean? You know what you like with your headlines. Yeah?
Just to confirm.
Killed you then, didn't it?
In terms of your running?
Yes, very difficult. The most difficult in the bottom 7, I'd say, into looking at it on paper. And I think that's why we've got to be better than we've been in the last 3 games. We've got a very difficult week, Chelsea, Southampton, and then Arsenal, is it? Yeah, Arsenal.
Yeah.
So extremely difficult week to try and pick up as many points as we can, where we can. And if we can continue, like I said, an undefeated run, but if we lose one somewhere along the line, let's bounce back and make sure we don't lose the next one. That would be my message to the players.
Do you know what you need? Do you have an idea as to what might be enough to ensure?
I have an idea, but I'm not going to tell you. So.
Listen, finally,
It's all done within ourselves, really. I mean, we can talk about how many points do we need. Yes, I mean we got 10 games to go, and we've achieved the first goal that I asked the lads to do, which is 28 points after 28 games. So that doesn't normally get you relegated. So over the last 10 or 12 years or so, for the first time for a long time, we're not in a relegation threatened position in terms of our points per game. But what we must do is try our very best to get more points than games played as quick as we can.
Okay.
Finally, this week there's been the whole Article 50 thing, Brexit.
Brexit.
Has been,
Yeah. What a mess we've made of it too.
Are you concerned that there may be restrictions on the number of EU players in the future that will be allowed to play in the Premier League? Might it have an impact on the players that come in from the EU?
It may well. I don't know. I think that it depends how they look at the situation. Like, I mean, I think that at the moment outside the EU, we have to get work permit for players, which has eased an awful lot in the last few years anyway. You don't have to go through as many restrictions and prove as much as you used to. Players with lots of talents now, and seem to be lots of talents without having to play, or having played 75% of the first team international games over the last 2 years, has eased somewhat. So I think that if there's a restriction, it won't be too demanding. The influx of foreign players into this country makes the government extremely wealthier with VAT and the tax that they have to pay. So I can't see him wanting to spoil that, can you?
Okay, we'll move on to Pete.
Again. Have you been surprised that Chelsea have been allowed to get this far ahead at this time of the season? When you think of the amount of money some of the other big sides paid during the summer, last transfer window?
I think we're all a little surprised that they've managed to have extended the run they've been on for the length they have, particularly with the start that happened. But you've got to give a huge amount of credit to Antonio, because he's gone back to what he knew best, and has instilled a huge amount of confidence in the players in that system that one or two maybe have speculated about beforehand, and because results had almost immediately changed, it's grown the confidence of those players, and it's grown a belief in the work that he's done, and the players' belief that they feel like they're never going to get beat, and they play that way. So the rest have had to do catch up, which increases the pressure massively on them. However big that gap gets, the bigger the gap gets, the bigger pressure on the other clubs below that haven't quite managed to withstand that pressure for me, and hence they've always felt that they've got to win every game to try and catch them up, and when they haven't, Chelsea have won and slipped another 2 points farther forward. So it's been a tremendous run for them and a tremendous season up to now. So I'm going to look forward to the challenge on Saturday, and try and be what happens in the Premier League. Try and be the smaller club that can upset the team at the top of the league, which, you know, can be done. You know, at any stage on Saturday, some of the big boys can slip up against the boys who are not so big. I can only hope it's our day. Have a bit of luck, need a bit of luck. Like I said, need to play in top form. Whether that's the case or not, we'll find out. But he's done a great job for his first season, I have to say.
Yeah, I was just going to add to
Fantastic.
He's quite a character. You see him on the touchline. He's very, very passionate, obviously, about football. So you'd say he's been a great introduction to the Premier League?
Well, he's one of the top coaches in the country. I think that we have the top coaches, or respected top coaches throughout the world, managing and coaching in our country now. So I think from that point of view, it's great for them to come and take up the challenge of managing the Premier League. And for us, it makes life extremely difficult for English and British managers, of course, to break in there, which is very sad. But it's the challenge we have to accept today. Like I mean, so I always like pitting your wits against the best, and this is the best league in the world. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so you're always pitting your wits against the best players and against the best managers and the best coaches. Sometimes with less resources, or most of the time with less resources, which makes it even more difficult challenge, but very interesting.
Just one thing about, does it go to show how important a strong bench is with a club like Chelsea, with what they can call upon from the bench? He almost builds a team around the 17 players he selects on that day.
I think that if you look in context about what Chelsea are achieving, and I don't want to take anything away from the Chelsea players or Mr. Conte on the basis that he's been absolutely magnificent, and so are the players, but they haven't played in Europe. So if that doesn't tell you what it means to a squad about having to play in Europe and cup matches, about the effect it may have on one particular competition, then I think that what they've done this year shows that if you're not in Europe and you're free to concentrate on the most important thing for him, I think, which would be winning the Premier League this year, then he's had, by not being in Europe, it's helped him pick the same players because they've had fewer injuries. So the same players have been fitter longer, they've had better rest. He's had better time to do his coaching, to get his point across, and they've maximised that to 100%. So it's been a factor for him that he hasn't had to compete in Europe, and I think that's been a help to him by the messages he's got over to his players, and it's why they're at the top of the division. Not the only thing. I think the major thing is his influence and the players' reaction to that, but having not played in Europe has helped an awful lot.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes the broadcast section.